I wanted to like the roommate so bad. I had not yet seen Patti LuPone or Mia Farrow perform live. In my most anticipated plays of the 2024-2025 Broadway season video, I said that I had heard that it was like The Odd Couple meets Breaking Bad. The Odd Couple, sure, it's not exactly like how in The Odd Couple you have the slob and the neat freak. In this one, it's more you have like the New Yorker and the Midwesterner. Sure, The Odd Couple, fine, that's a fine comparison. But Breaking Bad, it is not like Breaking Bad. I kind of thought it might have similar pacing to Breaking Bad, but no, it did not. And the play is 90 minutes long, but I have to say it felt much longer than 90 minutes. And there were times that I thought that the show was ending, but it just kept going. And I'd be like, am I going to make my train? I don't know. It took 30 minutes to get past the exposition in the beginning and for like the mystery to get started. And I put mystery in quotations because it's solved right after it's introduced. And I knew that it took 30 minutes to get past the exposition because people kept taking out their phones and I could see the time. The person sitting directly next to me, get this, took out his phone probably once a scene during the show, had his phone on full brightness, and get this, was checking scores during the show. And the cherry on top was that his smartwatch kept ringing. It was a low ring, but it kept ringing. I don't like confronting people, and I find it really awkward because, I mean, there's a show happening on stage, and I don't want to disrupt it any more than this person on his phone may have been disrupting it at that time. I ended up having to say something because eventually the people sitting in the row behind us, started to talk about it. And I was like, all right, this is getting too far. It was terrible behavior. It makes me so sad because, like I keep saying, Broadway is expensive. Like, I did not pay to see you check your scores. I just had to get that out of the way. I did make a bad audience behavior video, and I was like, oh, if only I held out a couple of weeks, I would have had this to talk about. I'm like, Patti LuPone is right there. I mean, clearly this man did not know the history of Patti LuPone and cell phones in the audience and other distractions in the audience. I was like, are you nuts? Like, you're about to get yelled at. And Patti LuPone is on stage trying to make a character work that just doesn't. And I think there's a few different reasons for that. One is that I just don't believe Patti LuPone in this role, no matter how extreme that wig is. She has good character physicality. Like, I like how she walked around on stage, and I like how she held herself on stage. But I did not believe that she was the person she said she was. When she was saying, like, when she was in character and talking about the things she has experienced or done in the past, I was like, no, you haven't. But, you know, the show wants you to believe that she had. And so, you know, it is what it is. But I think that there were problems with the character of Robyn coming straight from the script, which she starts at a very interesting place. She is a person who is attempting to change their old bad habits by fleeing to a new setting, in this case, moving in with Sharon in Iowa. I'm not really sure exactly what she was running away from. I was expecting like, oh, is someone after her or something, but it was just like, no, just a change of scenery so that she stops her old bad habits. And I'm like, is that reason enough? And the character doesn't budge from this starting point, despite how much the show wants you to think that she does. Like, she pretty much stays the same the entire show. I mean, I thought there was a missed opportunity to see her kind of fall into her old habits. She kind of does, but not really. And I feel like if you're going to write a character who describes all of this baggage that she has from her past, I feel like the character has to get right back into it at some point or go even worse. And she barely skims the surface of what she had done in the past. So that was a missed opportunity. And I thought that there were many missed opportunities with the script itself. A character would reveal something and I'd be like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, I hope they really focus in on this. And they kind of would for a few minutes, but then the script would pivot to something else. And I'm like, wait, no, hold on. Like, go back to that thing. That was really interesting. And there's no plot twist at the end, and not every show needs a plot twist. But I was kind of desperate for one by the end of there, and there could have been a plot twist, and it actually makes me curious to know if there was one that just happened to get removed, especially in terms of Robyn's relationship with Sharon. And Sharon is a much more interesting character. She goes through the most changes. It's a two-person play, and Sharon is like more of the protagonist than Robyn is. And I feel like it feels like the show wants them to be on the same level, but they're just not. Sharon definitely has more of an arc than Robyn does, in my opinion. So she's more of the protagonist, and the character changes way too much and way too fast. At first, I thought the changes were okay because I thought more time had passed between scenes. The evidence that I had for this was that Robyn plants, let's just say, medicinal herbs. There's a funny joke about that. Yet somehow within a month, she was able to start planting these medicinal herbs and get them to the point where she can harvest them. And not just harvest like one or two, but like harvest like a lot. And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't think that you can get to this point with medicinal herbs in just 1 month. Like, I feel like it takes a lot longer. So I'm just saying this because it took me out of the story when the whole thing about it only being a month had came up. I was like, wow, this all happened really quickly. But Mia Farrow is absolutely the best thing about this show. And I was talking to the person, not the one on their phone, but I was talking to the person on the other side of me before the show, and he was asking me if I had seen Rosemary's Baby, and I haven't. It's always been on my list. I'm kind of glad that I didn't know much about Mia Farrow before going into it, because I actually really like that this was my introduction to her, because I just think she was a genius. She's so good in this role. She is so funny. She has such great comedic timing. And her Sharon is nosy, overprotective. She's easily excited and easily influenced. And all of this is done in such an endearing way. And I think what Farrow does that's so genius is that she uses the character's naivete as her grounding attribute, and it works. Sharon could have easily been a caricature, kind of like what I thought of Robyn, but Farrow brings a refreshing nuance to the role. Here is a view from my seat. I did have excellent visibility, and I did have decent enough legroom. There is no elevator in the booth theater, so that is something to keep in mind when purchasing tickets. I did have a little bit of a problem with the set design for one reason and one reason alone, and that is because when you look on the website, in my opinion, there are way too many partial view seats being sold. I mean, it's over 30 seats labeled as partial view. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. I feel like that could have been avoided. In that theater, it's 800 seats. So it's like 4% of the audience. I didn't get that off the top of my head. I had to look that up. But it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a substantial number of people that have partial view seats. And I think it makes a difference. So should you see The Roommate before it closes on December 15th? Well, I think the one reason that you would go see this show is because you want to see Patti LuPone and or Mia Farrow in person. And the show knows this too. Like, looking at all of the advertising that they've been using, it's all Patti LuPone and Mia Farrow. They barely advertise anything else about the show. And honestly, I can see why. You would just know too much. There's not much else in the show to really surprise you. It's the Patti LuPone and Mia Farrow show, and you got to be happy with that going into it. The show actually starts with a pre-show curtain call. It was kind of awkward in the moment, but I will say I understood it. I got it, especially seeing how the show actually begins. This way, the audience just gets their clapping out right away. You know what's going to happen with Patti LuPone and Mia Farrow. And I have to admit, I was a little bit nervous to film this review. After all, it's my first not so positive review of a show that I've seen this season, and it stars two performers that I highly respect. However, I was on the train coming home, and there was a woman, and she saw my playbill, and she stopped and asked how I liked the show. And we got to talking, and it turns out she saw The Roommate the week prior, and we shared similar feelings about the production. We were both like, well, the show was not so great, but wasn't Mia Farrow awesome? And I was like, yeah, So I felt a little bit more validated. Those are my thoughts of The Roommate on Broadway. I would love to read some of your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. I would also really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater-related content on my channel. Thank you for watching.